We are the Guinea Pig Collective. All will be assimilated. Resistance is futile.
Hanging out with Dark Helmet. Oh, Dark Helmet. Filling in for Cliff Jumper, who is now retired from active piggy duty as far as doing toy videos. Here we go with another Transformers video. By way of Hasbro and Takara Tomy, we got Transformers War for Cybertron. We got Studio Series Gamer Edition Starscream. Originally, I was not going to pick this one up, but we wound up seeing this on sale in a Target, and this thing wound up being just under $20. For a $35 figure to be under $20, as long as I have the funds available, which I did at the time, yeah, you better believe that I'm picking this one up and I'm going to review it and check it out. So I do have the original War for Cybertron Starscream, and we will do comparisons between this and the older one and see how this one fares. Hopefully this fares better than the Cliff Jumper, which got absolutely piss poor marks for not being able to transform without falling apart. But the Optimus Prime and the Megatron from this series did fairly well, so let's go ahead and get into it.
Command, through my will alone shall Cybertron be restored.
It's too unstable, Megatron. Using that power, you're endangering our entire world.
Teach me, Megatron. Teach me to wield Dark Energon the way you do.
Here we go with Starscream, right out of the box. I don't know what it is about the colors on this one. They just feel a little bit muted. Like they don't seem to be the right color, and like the centerpiece for his chest seems exaggerated in some way. I don't know what it is about it. So it just something just doesn't look right. So we'll go ahead and I'll bring out the original one that came with the Generations line. And there we go, side by side, a little bit bigger than the original one, but I think the original one captured a little bit more than what he looked like in the game. Like, there's something about this new one I just can't put my finger on. It doesn't look right. I'm gonna have to bring up actual game photos here. Well, we'll take a look at him in game and see what they messed up.
Shall I send Thundercracker and Skywarp to retrieve him, Lord Megatron?
No, I want the Autobots' leader to know his doom approaches. This Energon bridge and reactivate it for your new master.
So after taking a quick examination of some of the photos, I can see that these big red pieces down here on the shins, these are just way too big. This centerpiece, like I thought, this is just way too wide. It wasn't quite this thin, but it was somewhere in between this one and this one. So they kind of got that wrong a little bit. A lot of the colors on this one, they probably should have actually been slightly darker in the original game. It's really weird because the color is almost, it's almost in between this shade of red and this shade of red, but a little bit darker like this, but just a lighter shade. It's really weird, the coloring in that game. But a lot of the other stuff that they got on here is pretty good. There's no purple up here. Like this whole big chest piece that came up like that is not present on this one. That was actually on the original character in the game, and he had like this big purple glowing color that was sitting in there. They did miss out on a lot of that. The hand color is correct on the new one though. His hands were blue all the way down instead of turning gray like the older one did. So let's go ahead, let's check out the posability and see how that holds up.
And I will serve you.
And what could you possibly offer me that I cannot simply take?
The supply of Dark Energon aboard this station is nearly exhausted. I know how to manufacture more.
So here we go. We got him posed with the older one. You can see that the older one had these two pieces. They spun around. They had a little gear right here. You can spin them around. They're like twin Gatling guns. You take those Gatling guns, you can port them together to create just one single weapon. So that was the kind of like the play feature on this older one, is that these would form together just to form one big giant double-ended gun right there. I mean, that was kind of neat, but it really wasn't really what Starscream was using in the game. I mean, this is kind of like what you start off with. He starts off with this big, giant, long-range scoped weapon, this big rifle, if you will. And this one does have a lot more articulation than the old one. The old one didn't have pivots down at the feet. It didn't have a whole bunch of twists and turns. I mean, it did have a little bit of arm movement right there, but the weird thing about him is where his elbow is, it kind of only turned into the bot. So if you wanted to push it forward and turn it up and make a fist, you could do it, but you couldn't have that G1 aesthetic where you have his blaster on the side of his arms like he had in the old cartoon and in the old toys. You can't do that because of the way the ports are, and it winds up on the underside of his arm, and it looks just a little bit ridiculous. But this one, on the other hand, really nice so far with the points of articulation. The color scheming is a little bit off. The cockpit for the jet mode is a little bit too wide, and the red down on the shins is just extremely overdone as well. But everything else about this one is looking pretty cool so far.
Shall I send Thundercracker and Skywarp to retrieve him, Lord Megatron?
And while his ability to kneel isn't overly convincing, the movement that is in the arms, the elbows, and in the hands turn, all that movement allows him to actually bring this big long rifle over and be able to put his other hand underneath it like he's bracing himself for a really good long distance shot. That is pretty damn impressive. I do like that. Tons of articulation in the top of the body of this one. Here we go with Starscream in another pose. So in conjunction with him being able to hold his gun normally, you could do like you've seen in the game. You can actually port the hand right off and port the weapon right onto his arm.
I am Starscream.
Starscream also comes with this big giant mace that actually does break away into two parts.
Here, Lord Megatron. Under my leadership, Decepticon victory is assured.
So here we go with Starscream in one more pose. Looks like he's running. Did have to brace him up the back of the wall to actually balance him, but otherwise this thing does have some pretty good balance. You can take the end of the mace off, so it looks like he has a club. And we went ahead and threw his gun in his other hand. And here's the end of that mace head. Now, why this thing looks pretty cool, the one thing I can't stand is the way the Hasbro packages this shit, where they push it down in the bottom of the package, then they wrap it up with twist ties, because the ends of the points of this mace are all bent the hell up where it was sitting down the bottom of the package. And this side is a little bit bent too from the side of the package. Like, this kind of shit shouldn't happen. But because of the garbage ass way Hasbro packages this thing, this is what you get. If you would have just had a plastic bubble where this stuff sat down in there, it wouldn't be all warped up and twisted. Ugh, Hasbro.
Impossible! No one has ever survived to reach this place.
Another thing I want to mention about this figure. So when I first got this figure out, you notice these two red pieces right here that I complained were kind of missing. Yeah, they were actually in the package as extra pieces to try to create fluff or something. I don't know. I don't know if they're going to interfere with the transformation when he goes into the jet form. I'm going to find out. But if they just put them in as extra pieces to kind of pad out the packaging, make it look like, oh, look at all these extra pieces you got, that is pretty damn cheap.
I am the Destroyer!
So after a very, very hot minute of trying to get this thing transformed, I finally did manage to get it transformed into this jet form. I had to actually look at the directions. And once they get that complicated, it just really just turns me off, first off. And then when you get a piece of shit that looks like this, and half these things don't even port in correctly. Like these arms stay loose. They don't even port in the way that they should. Like this looks like trash. This is absolute garbage. They call this a freaking Cybertronian jet form? A Tetra jet form? Kind of like they played on for the High Moon Studios game? Not even close. Not even remotely close. This is a piece of junk. And then they're like, oh, well, you can always port the mace thing on there. Like, okay, so you want to just make it, like, not even sure how you're supposed to port that in there, but yeah, let's port that in and make it look even dumber. After a hot minute of looking everything, this is pretty much what they say. Oh, yeah, you can port this on there. It's asinine looking. That is so stupid looking. I mean, this jet form is bad to begin with, and adding this stuff on there does not improve the looks. I mean, you got this big, giant, empty hollow spot right there in the top, and then they add two extra pieces that they had for his chest that make it look like extra packaging stuff, like extra goods in the box. They don't need to be removed when you transform. So what was the point? What was the point, Hasbro? This right here, while the robot mode looks really cool and the accessories do port on the figure pretty well, and it kind of gives you that vibe of the game, everything about this transformation of this thing and the way these weapons are all, at least the mace is all warped the fuck up. This is trash. Now, because of this, I am not going to give it high praise just because the robot form is good, man. This thing needs to be able to transform, look good, and stay ported together and not want to fall apart. And when you turn it upside down, it shouldn't just look like a smattering of giblets all over the place. This is just shit. This looks nothing like the game. Now, because of that, the robot mode, like I said, looks pretty cool, but that's about it. They got so many elements of this wrong with this big giant cockpit that doesn't even look like the game, and then a jet form that doesn't look like the game. This thing is going to get a 5 out of 10. This was absolutely a pile of shit. Hasbro, if this is the kind of offerings that you're going to give for a revitalized version of the War for Cybertron game, just stop while you're ahead and give the fuck up. So we got a little bit of an addendum here for this Starscream, just an added freaking bonus with this one. So if you look at these things right here, these pieces, when this snaps down, they're supposed to fold and lock into place. First off, you can see this doesn't even lock into place right there. Does not lock into place. So when you bring this other piece around, it's supposed to port in right there. And it doesn't. It doesn't. It will not port in. Why? They use two different types of plastic on this thing. So they have this red under here. It's a soft plastic. And then they got the little bit of a harder plastic on the outside, including the legs and everywhere else. So when they packaged it with their stupid packaging that they do with these cardboard things, it actually warped all that soft plastic. So now it won't port together right. And I thought something was off about it. When I was first looking at it, you could see it's all bent up. This is just the kind of crap that Hasbro does. I mean, seriously, Takara, if I was you, I would be embarrassed to have my name sitting on this box, especially with the 40th anniversary for Transformers. Guys, remember, Helmet, the new Transformers Big, and of course, Cliff Tripper. Hope that you enjoyed this one. Be sure to let them know what you thought. Later, y'all.
Transformers, more than you